Caitlin Clark, and let's say it, and I say it in the book, I'd go into this in depth. A white woman from Iowa in a 74% Black league. That's an issue. The book is the first real journalistic look at this entire season and at Caitlin Clark and what she's done and all these issues that are out there. No holds barred. I shy away from nothing. And I look at the way players like Diana Taurasi, Brianna Stewart, Cheryl Swoops with her flurry of falsehoods, Cheryl Reeve, the Olympic coach, Gina Auriemma, really tried to minimize her. And were very critical of her. That stunned me. You should be saying, this is great. You don't have to cheer for her. You guard her. You play tough. She's not a victim. She loves to throw it at people. She's feisty and tough out there. And that makes her, I think, even more appealing to so many people. But for this group of people to want to say such negative things and be so wrong about her, okay, fine. It's a free country. You can do what you want. But
the one thing that I cannot deny is the amount of little girls that were showing up to follow her. Little girls with their parents and the fervor and the energy there.
Why her?
Same thing.
Why her?
Well, but she was a white girl from the middle of America.
Imagine saving a league and being punished for it. That's not a fictional underdog tale or some sensationalized headline. That's the real-life story of Caitlin Clark, a woman who dragged an entire league, the WNBA, into the national spotlight with pure talent, charisma, and crossover appeal. And instead of celebrating her, embracing her, or even protecting her, they tried to break her. According to veteran journalist Christine Brennan, one of the most respected sports writers in the country, the WNBA wasn't just unprepared for Caitlin Clark's arrival, they were almost resentful of it. Brennan's new book, Unauthorized, is a no-holds-barred expose that pulls the curtain back on what really happened behind the scenes in Caitlin Clark's rookie season. It's not a feel-good empowerment story. It's a brutal autopsy of a league caught flat-footed, confused, and some would argue willfully ignorant.
Yes, have we ever had teams have to get into larger arenas to play against a team? No, we have not. So if we have more eyeballs on the game and Caitlin Clark brings that, why would we feel some kind of way because she has more television games? I think we have to understand that when one player eats, we all eat. And as we all get more opportunities, it just opens it up for everyone else.
Caitlin's coming. There's more than just that are coming. What will the league have in store for them when they get there?
Look, SVP, reality is coming.
Brennan's reporting makes one thing painfully clear. Caitlin Clark is more important to the WNBA than Tiger Woods ever was to golf. That's not hype, that's math. From record-breaking ratings to sold-out arenas to a global spike in interest, Clark's impact is measurable. And yet, the league responded with silence, suspicion, and in some cases, sabotage. Instead of building her up, they let her become a target. On and off the court, veteran players threw elbows. Coaches made dismissive remarks. Media members launched think pieces questioning her popularity. Officials allowed obvious, borderline dangerous fouls. And leadership, from the commissioner on down, stood by and watched. Or worse, enabled it. Brennan recounts one stunning conversation where a top WNBA executive claimed that Clark's arrival was the biggest thing since Maya Moore. Now, no disrespect to Moore, but that comparison alone shows how little the league grasped what was coming. Maya Moore never had middle-aged men in Iowa lining up around arenas to see her play. Caitlin Clark did.
Question would be, or your viewers and listeners are probably saying, okay, so like why? And what should have been done? And I looked seriously at the leadership of the WNBA. And how could you not be prepared for this moment? You've seen it happening in the Big Ten. You've seen it in Iowa. You see these TV ratings. 4 million more, as I said, watching the women than the men. I think
the resentment wasn't limited to the court. It spread like a virus through the media and league offices. There was a palpable sense of discomfort surrounding Clark's sudden popularity. Brennan points to a major source of the tension: race. The WNBA is a 74% Black league. Clark is a white woman from Iowa. That dynamic stirred complex emotions, unspoken divides, and outright hostility. Brennan doesn't tiptoe around this. She dives right into it, exposing how Clark's rise forced a reckoning the league was entirely unprepared for. And while fans across the country were captivated, people who had never watched women's basketball suddenly glued to their screens, the league responded with nothing. No major promotional campaign, no strategic media rollout, no real effort to harness the momentum. Brennan's reporting paints the WNBA as a league so used to irrelevance, they didn't know what to do when success arrived. It was like giving a lottery ticket to someone who thinks money is evil.
Team Brennan just exposed the WNBA in a major way. Guys, for this one here, we got to go all the way up.
And I think, guys, that actually helped me understand as a journalist the fascination, because I've covered a lot over my career and been very fortunate to be at Wimbledon's and Super Bowls and Tiger Woods and you name it. I've covered it. And I'm so lucky to have done that. And I found myself fascinated, who is this? And I'm getting text messages from guys who would never have watched a second of women's basketball. Good guys, they want their daughters to play sports. I mean, good people, but just And they're texting, "Are you there? I'm watching. Are you seeing this performance?" And that told me something that I actually was very helpful to be at home watching it versus being on press row talking to a bunch of other journalists. That okay, there's something going on in the country here. And it's everyone's fascinated, and people are standing in line for hours in the cold around the Big Ten, this barnstorming tour.
Clark wasn't just a good player, she was a movement. From her days at Iowa, her games were events. She sold out college arenas, outdrew men's games on TV, and became a social media icon. And still, when she turned pro, she was met not with celebration, but confrontation. In preseason games, fans waited outside for hours just to see her play. Merch sold out. Security was overwhelmed. It was the biggest spotlight the league had seen in decades, and they nearly fumbled it out of pure spite. Instead of embracing the obvious opportunity, Brennan says the WNBA circled the wagons. Some players, feeling overlooked or threatened, lashed out. Others played gatekeeper, as if Clark had to earn her spot in a league desperate for relevance. The media wasn't much better. Instead of highlighting her impact, many questioned whether she was getting too much attention, as if popularity itself was a sin.
To popularize the sport again, the WNBA does not need that, because for a lot of America, Caitlin Clark is the hero, and anyone that comes to Caitlin Clark's defense is a hero, and everyone that flagrantly fouls her, speaks poorly of her, acts like she's not great is the villain, and then vice versa on that. How big of a part of the story is that when you look at the conflict surrounding Caitlin Clark? We got grown men.
Brennan lays out how officials were reluctant to change their outdated mindset. While new media, content creators, and fans online saw Clark's rise from miles away, the league stuck with their 1990s blueprint, completely blind to the new era. Even corporate sponsors got it wrong. Nike, a brand supposedly on the front lines of women's sports, delivered an underwhelming campaign for Clark. The rollout was quiet. The merch was limited. The marketing strategy felt lazy, almost like an afterthought. It was a missed moment on every level. What Brennan reveals, and what's truly damning, is that none of this had to happen. The league had all the tools, the numbers, the proof, the buzz. But instead of leaning in, they recoiled. League insiders saw Clark not as a golden ticket, but as a disruption to the old guard. Instead of saying, "Let's ride this wave," they said, "Who does she think she is?" Brennan dives deep into the league's culture, and what she finds is disturbing, a bizarre belief among some that mainstream success compromises the league's integrity. That too much popularity makes it less authentic, it's the kind of thinking that dooms entire industries. The WNBA had a chance to break through to the mainstream in a way that women's basketball never had, and it chose mediocrity over momentum. The targeting of Clark on the court was just a symptom of something larger, a cultural dysfunction at the heart of the league. Instead of treating her like an asset, many treated her like a threat. Brennan highlights how older players and coaches were especially critical, while younger players and newer fans were more open and supportive. The generational divide was sharp, and it fed the resentment. And it didn't stop at players and coaches. Brennan details how media figures, some of the very people who ignored the league for years, suddenly started positioning themselves as authorities, criticizing Clark, questioning her fame, and pretending they saw it coming. Meanwhile, it was YouTubers, TikTokers, and social media creators who were truly pushing women's basketball into the mainstream. The league dismissed these voices. Brennan didn't. The book is more than a criticism, it's a warning. The WNBA had a once-in-a-generation opportunity, a player who drew international attention, packed arenas, broke records, and made people care. And instead of building around her, they let politics, jealousy, and outdated thinking run the show. And here's the cruel irony. The very people who tried to minimize Caitlin Clark are now trying to claim credit for the league's rise. The same media members who called her attention too much are now praising the growth of women's basketball. The same players who questioned her are now smiling for the cameras in sold-out arenas they couldn't fill a year ago. Because here's the truth. Stars don't ask to shine, they just do. And Caitlin Clark, she's shining whether the league likes it or not.